I wanted to talk to you about the trouble with Frixion pens and why I'm never going to be using them as a writer in my personal writing and journaling, but how I've found a place for them in my planner. So I brought out some things, including Twilight. This is kind of a beat up copy because it's been through some things. But I wanted to kind of show you how I like to use highlighters in my books. So if you didn't know, Frixion pens and highlighters, let's use a color that will show up on camera well, or just like a regular highlighter. They're meant to highlight things on the page, okay? But the difference is that you can erase what you highlight, which is pretty awesome. Sometimes as a writer, I like to take a marker, which is also by Frixion, and write like a little note in here. Sometimes I like to put notes in here that say, you know, great grammar or love this word, and I like to circle things. And some people are particular about writing in books. So Frixion pens or markers are a really great way to get around people being offended, because when you're done, you can just go ahead and go in here and erase them. So this would work great if you're going to college, or you're in high school, or you have children or grandchildren in high school that can use this in their school books. So Frixion pens come in a lot of different products. I don't have any colored pencils, and there's some highlighters that are darker than the ones that I personally have that come in, I think, a pack of like 6, or you can get them in a pack of 3 like this. But I'm just going to go ahead and show you what I have. So my favorite Frixion pens are probably the clickers. Not all of them say clicker on there. Let me see if I can find one that does. Okay, so right there. And that basically means that the clip on the pen is what you click down in order for it to come out at the bottom there. And for the longest time, I swear, I was just like going like this to the eraser, and I was like, why doesn't mine work? Like a crazy person. So the clickers, they definitely, you just push down and it comes out, and I just think it's the coolest thing. And after you get used to it, because I swear for the longest time I was like, what? And I've had, it's so funny. It's kind of like a joke pen, because I will give it to my boyfriend or someone who doesn't know how to use it, and they'll try to do this, or they'll try to twist it and they'll take the whole thing off, and they're like, what is wrong with your pen? It's the funniest thing ever. But they do come in different sizes. So 6 years ago, when I first started college, is when I first heard of the Frixion pen, and I thought, what, it's erasable, this is amazing, let me do it. And 6 years ago I ended up getting the 0.7, because in America that's all that they sell here. If you want to get a 0.5 or another more narrow tip, you have to go through other American-based companies that sell Japanese products, like Jet Pens, for instance, which I will link down below, because that's where I got the majority of these pens, as well as Amazon. So anyway, so this is called the Frixion Ball Clicker. And then you have these clickers that don't have like the tattoos on them. So this is like the American brand, and this one is the Japanese brand. And these come in the 0.5. So there's the difference there. So 6 years ago when I bought these, I was not a fan. And the reason for that was that the formula that was in the pens, they were very streaky, and so I hated it because it looked awkward, and sometimes the words or the letters wouldn't form properly, and sometimes O's would look like C's, and it was just a mess, and I hated them. And I didn't think that they, I mean, they were definitely an upgrade from the old school. I don't know if it was Papermate they used to make them, but they used to make an erasable pen, and they were just a hot mess. So it was a pass for me. And then about a year ago, I started seeing more people use these, and I thought, man, I'm gonna have to try to get back on them. So the clickers are cool. So here is a 0.4, and this is called the Frixion Point. And you can see that the tip looks like a needle. .4, and I'll write 0.4 over here so you can see it a little bit better. So there's that. And then this one is called the Frixion Ball Slim, which is a lot slimmer than the Frixion Point, as well as just the clickers. And it also is like a clickable right here. So don't try to click the eraser, but if you do, you're not alone. And these ones come in a set of a ton of different colors, and I just like wanted to try them out because I didn't know if I'd like these two pens. So I ended up getting them from Jet Pens, which allows you to buy one instead of an entire set, as well as picking out what color you want, which is fantastic. So this is called the Frixion Ball Slim, and it's in the 0.38. And you can tell that the 0.4 and 0.38 obviously is not that much of a difference. So because these two are so close, it's really going to come down to, in my opinion, the design of the pen. So you have a clicker here, which I'm in love with things that click, whereas this one you have to remove the lid. Now there's a couple of reasons why I don't care for this. First of all, I lose the lids of all of my pens. I don't know what my problem is. Sometimes I'll find them later on, but I hate that. So I like to post my pen, which you can absolutely do with the Frixion Point. However, the way this is designed, once you post the pen or the cap, you lose access to the eraser, which is like this plastic eraser, which is really a bummer, and I think it's kind of a flaw in the design. But you can buy things like this. So this is a Frixion eraser, which I purchased because I was like, yeah, I'm gonna probably need one of those. And you can go ahead and just obviously use this. These are some Frixion marks I made earlier to erase any type of Frixion anything. It'll erase the highlighters, it'll erase the stamps, all of that stuff, no worries. I personally like the Slim because I have a wallet like this, which is the Filofax Saffiano, and I have a whole video about this. But this has a very skinny elastic pen loop, and so this Slim fits in there so nicely, and there's no like bulge pushing up against this zipper, which makes me really happy. So I love to keep this in here, whereas something like this that has a really even though it's like a very slim kind of grip, it's really difficult, and I mean almost impossible to push it in and out of this thing. I also like it because I have this Midori calendar that I love. It's closer to the personal size when it comes to traveler's notebook sizing, and I just love it because, like, let me show you. This is the very broad 0.7 that you can get in the US. When you write hello, it releases a lot of ink, and it's very broad tip, whereas this one is a very skinny mini, and so you can write a lot more in these boxes if you use more of a narrow tip. And that's why I love this pen, and I keep it right in here, and it makes me very, very happy. So the next thing to talk about these pens is how you can change them up. So let me show you my latest Frixion, which is the Frixion Ball 4-color in the 0.5. And I think the 0.5 is absolutely one of my favorite sizes of pen tips to use. So this one actually comes with the standard, I know this looks gray, but I promise you it's black. So it comes with black, blue, green, and red. And you can buy cartridges for these just like you can like the Coletto pens. And they come like this and like this. So don't ask me why, I'm not entirely sure, but they do sell the black, red, and blue together, and the green you have to purchase separately, but you can buy them on Amazon, and I also believe that Jet Pens sells them. And you can just remove this to replace the cartridges, which I love, and it just means that you have 4 pens in one, which makes me very happy. And this one also has one of these clips on it that you can go ahead and like clip to something, which makes me happy. And then you have the eraser right here on the bottom. So I also was experimenting, and I found this out because I was wondering about it. So the slim pens, they actually don't sell more than these 4 colors in cartridges, which makes me really, really sad. But you can take your slims, because you can buy a full set of these. I don't even know how many colors there are. And you can take them and you can put them in here. So this is the blue, and I will show you that they are like virtually the same thing. The only difference is this is a white and that has black on it, but you see there. And I'm going to go ahead and put this in its place. And you see that it works perfectly fine there. So if you were wondering about that, because I was as well, I was like, can I put this in here? The only trouble is, since they don't sell these individually, obviously, because they don't want you to refill these, and I don't know why, because the Coletto comes with like 14 different cartridge colors, or maybe 15, I'm not even sure, but it's a lot. But if you bought the set, you go ahead and take them out and put them in here and fill them with whatever colors you wished. So that's kind of awesome. And the other fun thing that I learned was that you can take your friction point. So if you weren't in love with having like to, you know, keep putting the cap on there, or you're afraid to lose the cap, you can take the colors that are in these pens, and I'm not sure how many colors come in this one. I think it's also a lot of different colors, and you can go ahead and put them in one of these bodies. Now this is the 10th anniversary series right here, and you'll see that obviously these carry a lot more ink, it seems like. I don't know if it's a lot more, but it looks like. It doesn't actually say how many ounces are in here, but anyway, but you can go ahead and put it in here and it'll write just fine. So there's that. So there's a lot of mixing and matching and changing that you can actually do with these pens, which is pretty awesome, because I've watched a lot of really big named pen geeks, and they like to cut down cartridges and things, and they'll show you how to do all of that. And if you're like me, I'm like, I'm just not going to get that together. It's good to know that these ones you don't have to worry about, that you can go ahead and just mix and match them and switch them around. You don't have to cut down anything and worry about ruining anything, which is kind of cool. So this one is an anniversary series, and it has like this checkered body to it, and this was a 10th anniversary series, and so they all came with black cartridges in the inside, and I went ahead and purchased these, which come in black, blue, red, and I think maybe green. And I went ahead and I took a blue one in the 0.5, or you can get a 0.7, it doesn't matter, and I switched them out, and it works just fine in here. And the same goes for like if you wanted to go ahead and buy some of these 0.7s, because I ended up getting this, I think, from Office Max or Office Depot. I'm not sure which one. I think that they're like bought and sold by the same main company. And you don't like the 0.7 because it's too broad for you, you can certainly go ahead and order on Amazon or Jet Pens some of these 0.5 ones and just replace them, and they'll work just fine. So that is really great. And if you were wondering about that, because I totally was, there you go. There's also markers, which I love. These are just like, I'm telling you, they're the coolest things ever, and they're called Frixion colors. And I'm telling you, if you bring these things out, like at a party or something, you just like get the coolest response from people. They think it's like magic when you're sitting here and you have them here, and then you just start like to erase these things. They just think that you're just like a magician, and I'm like, yep, I am. And then you have the stamps, which are funny because I would always forget to erase them. Not that I really needed to, but I know that they say Frixion on there, but I would always forget that they were Frixion and that you could erase them. And for the longest time, I didn't even know that there was an eraser on the bottom. But this whole square down here is an eraser, so you can come down here and you can erase anything you want to with them, which is so cool. Again, it's like magic. Now, the stamps are definitely the wettest out of all of the ink, so it takes a little bit longer for them to dry, and if you don't wait long enough, they will smear, but it's no worries because you just wait a little bit longer and then you can erase the smears, so don't forget about that. There you go. And again, it's only around the edge, so sometimes I just prefer to use like a big eraser to really get down and in there. So you can see that sometimes things like the markers and the stamps that are a little bit wetter, they don't erase all that well. I mean, they have the most kind of like shadow left over from erasing them. So that's also something to keep in mind. And I'm just using some passport sized Traveler's Notebook Company paper that I just like ripped out of the insert because I'm crazy. Okay, so then we have highlighters. So let me show you kind of what happens when you mix other materials with the Frixion ink. So right here I have a Pilot. So this is also by Pilot because all of the Frixion pens are by Pilot. G2 pen, and this is a gel pen, and all of the Frixion pens here are also gel pens. And we will just write Pilot. Let me bring you closer. Pilot G2. Worst handwriting ever. Sorry. And this is in the 0.38. You have to let this gel, in my opinion, dry for a long time before you try to use these because it will smear like crazy. And I will take a little bit of a break and let it dry so that I can show you. And then I also have this gel pen, which is just a Coletto. And then I have a Tombow, because we use these a lot in our planners and journals, and I'm going to show you how this kind of reacts on there. And I will go ahead and use this one. And then I will do this on top so that I can do some erasing and show you how all of that is going to work out. Pencil Dixon. And this is in HB2. Okay, so there's that. And let me go ahead and take a highlighter to this one up here. And you can see right away I've let it dry for a while and it's already like on the tip got some blue. It smudges like crazy. And then we will use this like gold color on the pink. And that one's smudged a little bit, but not so much because this pen is like really wet in my opinion. I don't even know. So this one is what I wrote on top, and this is where I highlighted over. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and erase this from up here. So you can already see that it is smudging the crap out of this. And I have honestly tried to wait like a full-on hour before doing this, and I get pretty much the same reaction. Do you see how smudged that is? So I don't like the idea of erasing a highlighter that is going to cause a hot mess like that. So this is why I feel like Japanese products like Frixion on Frixion works best. So Frixion pen and Frixion highlighter, that combination works best than using anything else. And again, it seems to be more of an issue with the G2 pen by Pilot. If you get really close, you can kind of see some smearing there, but it's okay. Like, I don't hate that. Again, I didn't really clean it all that well. Let me try again. See, and the more you rub, the more it's going to smear. And then this is, of course, Frixion on Frixion, which I will do last, and this is pencil. Same issue with pencil, and I've tried a bunch of different kinds of pencils, mechanical and non. It smears like crazy when you try to erase the friction on there. So this one removed the pen on the Tombow without causing any issues. Let me erase it just a little better. So your Tombows are pretty okay to use with this pen with no worries. And this is the one where I wrote first and then I like highlighted over the top with the Tombow. Still, no major issues. And I find that that is also true of the Zig clear color wheel brush. It works fine too. So this is something that you really need to be thinking about when you're using it in your planner, or you think, oh, I'm totally going to erase all of this on pencil or on other gel pens. It just doesn't work as well. And of course, you're going to have the issue of when you write this in Frixion and then highlighting in Frixion, that obviously when you erase, both are going to erase clearly. So there's that. So it's not like when you use a Frixion pen, you can just erase the Frixion highlighter. They're both going to erase due to the friction that's happening here. So something else to be thinking about. Another thing to think about is this. Let me get my planner. So my planner here, I have an insert that I printed with an inkjet printer. Let's see if I can find an empty page. Here's one. And I will go ahead and just like scribble in here and write, "Hello, Moto." Just kidding. And then let it dry for a moment, and then I'm going to erase. And you will see that this inkjet ink, and this has been printed for a couple of months now, so it's not like it's not dry or anything. It reacts really terribly to the Frixion eraser as well. And it just makes like this crazy hot mess when it mixes with the ink there. It like smudges the printing ink all over the place and makes it look crazy. And I was like devastated. So I actually stay away from using Frixion in here because I want to erase and then I cause a hot mess that bugs me. So I just use either pencil or regular pen in here, and that's not a problem. So that's also something to be thinking about if you're thinking, hey, I want to use it in my planner, but you tend to use more printouts than you do just, you know, bullet journaling style things. So now here's one that I wrote on the other day that I was just going to show you. This is a heating gun, so you definitely don't want to be using this if you're like an artsy-fartsy person and you write like in your journal with a Frixion pen and then you decide to put color or something else on top of it and dry it, because this will happen. Which is crazy. I'm gonna go throw this in the freezer and show you how under cold temperatures everything is still there even though it looks like it's not, and how it will come back. Also, it's important to note, and I'll bring you in a little closer here, that different paper reacts differently to this. So this is just an index card, and I'm just gonna write on here. I'm going to let it dry, and then I'm going to erase it and show you that sometimes if the paper is like, because the ink just sits on top of the page, but like paper like this, it tends to have a little bit more grooves in it. It kind of sits in there and it doesn't erase as well. So that's also something to think about. And again, I think it works best on Japanese paper, which this is, and it erases best off Japanese paper. That paper I just put into the freezer is from a Rhodia Square Grid pad. And for some reason, I just feel like it doesn't erase the best off of this paper. So again, I don't know, this paper is thicker. I think it's like 90 GSM, and it just doesn't erase as well off this paper as it does the much thinner Japanese paper, which is probably around 68 GSM. So this has been in the freezer for a good 10 minutes, and you can see how it's already starting to come back. All of that was gone. So the longer you leave it in, I think the little bit darker it would get, but not too much more than that. And I don't have a problem with stuff like this that I've erased coming back. It's like stuff disappearing completely, because if you're like me, you go into a doctor's office for an hour or into the grocery store and it takes about an hour, especially if you go to Walmart, and you forget your planner in the car, especially in Colorado when it's hot or really, really cold. These things might happen by accident. And so I just feel like, for me, it's a good enough reason not to use it as a writer in my personal writing and journaling, but in my planning, which is, you know, always temporary for me, it's a go. So let me show you how I have been using this in my planner. All of this is highlighter. I don't have my blue one, but this is blue highlighter. And then I just used my Frixion pen all over here. And I love it because if I make a mistake like here, I can just go in and erase it and then just come back and write something else. Obviously, I'm just going to write the same thing, but obviously you can do that with pencil, but I like that the Frixion pen is bold, so it just stands out more. And that's the difference really between a pencil and having a Frixion pen. Especially when you're filming on camera and you want people to look at your stuff. When you write in pencil, it looks so dull and boring, and I like that you can change this up in different colors and erase it. It makes me happy. It's really great for when you want to draw things. So like all of this is drawn in Frixion pen, and I do that because, practice right here. Say I want to draw a line from this dot here to just this dot right there. And then I go like this, and I accidentally miss where I'm supposed to stop. See a dot here and a dot here. And I can just go like this and erase it and go like that and be fine. Since you've seen how it reacts to pencil, note that if you draw in pencil, I don't even know where I put my pencil now, I just had it. Like this, and you were trying to draw a square. I do this a lot when I use my micron. I'll draw it in pencil and then I'll go over it in micron pen and then just erase it. You can't do that with this without causing a hot mess. Like the pencil will not erase, and that sucks. So again, it's something else that you need to be thinking about. And a lot of times, even though this is not a Frixion eraser, because you're using Frixion, it will just erase both. You know what I mean? So you're just like, oh, okay, well that happened. So that's also something to keep in mind and consider. So that has been everything I wanted to talk to you about Frixion pens. I also should mention that because this is the anniversary, the 10th anniversary series, I'm going to assume that that means, because I couldn't find it anywhere else, that Frixion's only been around for about 10 years. So if you're someone like me who has been journaling since she was a kid, because I'm a writer, they can't really tell me that I can go ahead and journal with these pens, even if I kept them in a decently room temperature, you know, kind of climate, that they would be okay and the ink would be fine, because I have, you know, journals that are 2 times that old. So I personally am just not going to be using these for my personal writing and journals, but I'm going to use them in my planner because those things are just temporary. It doesn't matter to me. And if you're like me, I have moved, other people move, and I have a zircon that I throw a bunch of old journals in. And since I live in Colorado, it gets really, really, really cold here, and then really, really, really hot here in the summertime. And in that zircon, I'm telling you, even if you leave the door open, you can't even breathe. It's so hot in there. So that's where my old journals go. And I would be so afraid that because of the cold and the heat, the ink would keep reappearing and disappearing, and I probably can only do that so many times. So this has been my video. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. I hope that this was helpful. Thanks for watching, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye.